First of all, we have the lovely Deanean Martin, who has been with us all through school, and Summer Lyle Holmes. They were in the same year together at school, and I believe they went through the whole of the 12 years at the school together, graduating in 2013. Here we see them.
With Fiona and Brendan.
On their graduation day. Very lovely.
So beautiful friendship.
And adventures overseas.
This is Ondine, and this is...
And now Ezra Janetsky, we also have with us, who finished a couple of years after those two, and who also was at the school for the whole 12 years. Ezra was a very familiar face around the school, frequently giving wonderful, humorous speeches at assemblies, part of his skill set. We also have Nadia Korchev, who finished school here with us in 2019. Nadia also went through the 12 years at the school and yes, has had, of course, a very, very unusual 2 years since graduating. So they got to graduate, go out into the world, and then have the world close down around them. So it'll be very interesting to hear how she is managing with that. First of all, let us say hello to Deanean Martin. Deanean, hello.
Hello, everyone.
Lovely to have you here.
Oh, it's so lovely to be here virtually, but still lovely.
Could you please give us a little overview of your story, when you graduated and what you're up to now, and if you remember your first days at Sophia Mundi?
Sure. So I graduated in 2013, and as Catherine said, I was at the school from prep to year 12, which is amazing, really. And there were some points where, you feel like, oh, the grass is greener somewhere else at a bigger school. But looking back now, I'm so glad my parents made me stay, for reasons I'll talk about in the presentation. So after school, I got into the course I wanted, which was it was a Bachelor of Arts at RMIT, majoring in international relations. So I took one gap year before starting that, which I also think is a great choice for after school. It's just, travel teaches you so much, as most of you would know. So I would definitely recommend doing that instead of going straight from a very challenging program that the IB is straight to university. So I took 1 year off, then went to RMIT. I really loved that course and would recommend it to any students who are interested in international affairs, human rights, languages, politics, economics, all kinds of things. It's a really broad course, so it's good you don't sort of specialize too early and you learn about a whole lot of different things. And then I graduated that course in mid-2019, and then had a year off, and then was planning to go back into a master's, but then COVID happened, so I thought I'd delay it a little bit because I wanted to be learning in person. But unfortunately that hasn't happened. So I just thought it's best to start anyway. And I found a master's that I was really interested in and really excited to start. So that's what I'm doing currently. I'm just in my first semester of a Master's of Environment at Melbourne University. And this is majoring in their climate change stream. So this is sort of to do with climate change policy, all sorts of what else? Yeah, a bit of science, but mostly more the communication side and the the mitigation and how we actually overcome this challenge as a nation. So that's what I'm really interested in at the moment and what I'm very much immersed in. And what were some of my first memories of school, you were saying? So I started in prep with the beautiful Mary Howell, who was with us for so many years, and she's just the warmest, most safe memory for me. She's just like one of the most beautiful teachers I've had, and yeah, I just have such good memories from school. Like prep was just a little paradise, as you know. Like they've set up the prep garden just to be the most beautiful environment for children to learn. And yeah, and I'd come from a state school. I went to a state school for 1 year, and then my parents actually just could see it wasn't right for me, because they kept sort of putting me up classes, but just because I could do the work. And I wasn't going very well socially, but that didn't seem to matter to them. So like I was a prep age, but I'd gone up to doing year 1 work, and then they were trying to put me up to year 2 just because I could do the work. And but I wasn't making any friends because they were kids that were way older than me. So then my parents found out about Steiner education and decided to move me over. And so I went back to prep, like forgot how to read because they were already teaching us how to read that early. So but then started making friends, and it was just a much better choice for my whole development instead of just academic learning. So and then you learn to read a little bit later at Steiner, but overall you don't end up behind in any way, because I think they just give you more time to develop as a child. Yeah, so I think does that sort of answer the question?
That's great. Wonderful. Thank you. And Ondine, you've also got 3 younger siblings who went through the school as well.
Yeah, so we are very much a Sophia Mundi family. Yeah, the three younger siblings also went from prep to year 12. And we're even more so a Sophia Mundi family, because our dad, when I started at the school, he was sort of around school, like picking us up and stuff, and he's such a handyman that he'd like see something that needed fixing, so he'd start fixing it, and he came to be sort of known for that, and eventually he got offered a job as the sort of handyman groundskeeper sort of guy, and then he ended up doing that for all of our school years, and he's actually still there now. So yeah.
Terrific. Thank you, Ondine. Let us say hello now to Summer Lyle Holmes. Hello, Summer.
Hi everyone. I'm Summer. I was in the same class as Ondine, so I graduated in 2013. I started at Sophia Mundi in kinder with Haida Rose. Very fond memories of Haida Rose. And then went on to prep with Ondine. Also a Sophia Mundi family. My brother also went all the way through Sophia Mundi from kinder to year 12. And he was 4 years ahead of me. So I would have graduated, I think, in 2009. Yeah, so I went all the way through. I think some of my best memories are like of all the plays and theatre that we did early on in school, and then continuing on. I really loved that Catherine will remember the importance of being earnest. She directed one of our school plays. And yeah, after graduation, I decided to go to university in the US. So I went to Georgetown University in Washington, DC. The School of Foreign Service there, so kind of a similar degree focus to Ondine. I majored in international politics, and then I did 2 minors, one in French and one in African studies. I originally did like a women and gender studies minor, but I spent some time in Morocco and Mauritius during the middle of my degree, and then I switched over to an African studies minor, but still kind of focused on women and gender studies in Africa. And then sort of leading on from that, at the end of my final year of university, so my 4th year, because my degree was 4 years, I got a job with a nonprofit in Cape Town in South Africa called the Safety Lab, working on gender-based violence. So when I first graduated, they weren't ready to take me on yet. So I spent a summer working for a law firm in New York, because I had always thought I might end up going into law. So I kind of just wanted to get a little bit of a taste for it before I committed to the slog of law school. So I spent a summer doing recruiting, and then I went to work for the safety lab. I worked for them remotely from DC for a few months, and then I moved to Cape Town. Some of the photos you saw were from my time in South Africa. And so I worked there for a few months. And then I came back, went back to New York, and I decided to work. I had worked in a law firm, so I wanted to kind of see what public law was like to get a bit of an idea of what I thought I might want to do. So I worked for the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, also in recruiting for a year. And then I moved on to do attorney development, so professional development basically, with attorneys, because I wanted to kind of work with the attorneys once they were in the firm a little bit more, because recruiting, you're kind of just seeing people, some of them come in, some of them just come in for an interview and they never end up staying there. And I wanted to kind of get a better idea of like the life cycle of an attorney and their kind of career progression. So I moved to do that at another firm, Latham & Watkins, also in New York. And then I just moved back to Melbourne in January and started my JD, my law degree at Melbourne University. And I just started my second semester there. So, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you, Summer. Do you have a sense of why your parents thought it might be, Steiner education might be a good fit for you?
So I don't actually, so neither me nor Jalen never actually went to like a mainstream school. I know a lot of people have the same sort of story as in Dean, where like they tried and then it doesn't quite work out, so they look for something different. My mum, I think, actually heard about Sophia Mundi because there are a number of mums who lived really close by to us when Jalen was like school age, who had kind of started, I think they did like their own little play group. That was kind of like a Steiner inspired play group, just like on their own. And then, so she kind of heard about the actual like school from that group. And then they all ended up going to Sophia Mundi, and Jalen went all the way through. And the others all stayed there well into high school. So they all ended up having a predominantly Steiner education just from like that little group. We all lived really close to each other.
Yes. Yep. Great, thank you. Now, let us say hello to Ezra Janetsky. G'day, Ezra.
Hi, Catherine. Hi, everyone.
Lovely to see you. Could you tell us a little bit of your story?
Yes, sure thing. So I graduated in 2016 from Sophia Mundi, and I also went through from kinder to year 12. Started out with Hyde Rosa, then Mary, then most of my school years, Fiona was the class teacher. And then towards the end, Raquel McConnell was the class guardian. So went all the way through, loved school. Had such a great class, and it's a great group of friends, and we still all see each other to this day. Went through the IB. Obviously, it's a very, very broad course, so I wasn't sure what I wanted to do after it, but I did know I wanted to keep studying. So I went to Melbourne Uni to do a Bachelor of Science, which is quite a general course. And I tried a lot of different things and ended up going into, I majored in plant science in the end. So could have equally majored in ecology, but decided on plant science. So my interests are sort of plant ecology. And finished that at the start of 2020. Was hoping to go traveling around Europe last year, but COVID sort of dealt with that plan quite persuasively. So I was holding out before going back to uni as well. It was quite hard to get a job last year, so just worked in hospitality. Didn't manage to get anything to do with my course, and I have just gone back to do a Master of Biosciences at Melbourne Uni, and I'm in my first semester of that. My research projects for that course, I'll be looking at the 2019-20 fires in East Gippsland, and I'll be going out and trying to create a model that predicts tree mortality and resprout vigor following severe fires. So that's pretty exciting, and I'm looking forward to that when the pandemic is hopefully a little less severe.
Yes, that sounds like an amazing course of study you've got there. Ezra, have you got any sense of why your parents chose a Steiner education for you?
I'm not sure, but I was pretty shy as a child, so that may have had something to do with it. They may have thought it would be a good supportive environment for me, and maybe it was, because my sister also went to Sophia Mundi but left at the end of year 6, whereas I would never have imagined leaving. So clearly it suited me. Yeah, but not exactly sure why, but I'm glad that they did.
Very nice. Thank you, Ezra. Nadia Korchev, hello.
Hi.
Lovely to have you with us.
Nice to be here.
Nadia, could you tell us a little bit about your journey at Sophia Mundi?
So I started in playgroup with like Heidi Rose. I went to prep, and then I went through all the way to year 12. I ended up repeating an IB subject because I didn't get my diploma. So for like 3 months I did like art, and then ended up getting my full diploma. And then I took a gap year afterwards during COVID, and I was planning on traveling and working, but I just stayed at home and became like a housewife to my mum pretty much. Yeah, skills in that. But and then this year I'm doing fashion design at RMIT. I'm in my second semester. Yeah.
So you're doing that entirely online?
It was in person at the end of the first semester, and then we had like a week back. But then, yeah, we're back in lockdown, so it's all online, which is a bit annoying, but...
Yeah. Very challenging, especially with a visual arts course, I imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty hands-on, and it's a bit hard, because you don't get all the materials and stuff, but still good.
Nadia, have you got a picture of why your mum chose the school for you?
Well...
and your dad as well?
I think my dad read about Steiner, like, a little bit when he was getting to, like, organic food. And then they like went and checked it out, and I don't know, they just had a really good feeling about it, and like the sense of community and all that stuff. And yeah, I just ended up staying there for a very long time. At one stage though, I did like want to go to a bigger school just to like see what it was like, but I don't know, I decided to stay, and I'm very grateful for it. It's definitely turned out very well.
Right, very nice.
Yeah.
All right, so I might start with you, Nadia, with these other questions. Why did you choose to go through the IB program, and how did you make the decision?
It just sounded really interesting how I'm supposed to learn such a broad range of subjects as well. And yeah, I think that's what mainly interested me with it. There wasn't, and also like I really known the school for so long and like had friends there. So it was kind of an easy decision. And I didn't really know what BC was like, and like you guys like informed us of IB, and yeah. And my parents really liked it as well, just like, I don't know, being like forced in a positive way to like learn, so many different things. But it's like very useful as well. And I feel like after you finish, you realize like, I don't know, like how important it is. Like you just like remember all this stuff, and you're like, I would never have chosen to learn that. But like I still like, I don't know, like now I know this, and it's really useful.
Already it feels really useful.
Yeah, just like sometimes I'm like, oh, like this definitely applies to like something I'm learning now. Or
Interesting. Can I ask you, Ondine, so you're a few years down the track now from graduating. Can you remember why you chose to do the IB rather than go somewhere and do VCE or a different graduating program?
Yeah, it was definitely similar reasons to Nadia. It just sounded so interesting, and I don't think I even realized what a good idea it was to stay broad at that level. So because the IB makes you choose a subject from each subject group instead of whereas in VC you can choose you can just choose all the subjects you're good at, and they can just be all arts or all humanities or all science or all maths. I think at the time I didn't realize how important that was, but that's one thing I'm really realizing like more and more. And at the time I wasn't even so keen on it. I was like a bit terrified to have to do maths and not really interested in science at all. And now it's just funny because I do find myself in a course that like I really use those skills, and I didn't expect to at all. Like, I'm very interested in like climate science now, and while I'm not doing sort of the deep science part, it's more in the how we use that information to then transition our energy systems and all that kind of stuff. But like, yeah, I was just thinking about it today, like all those things just really helped. See, being able to read graphs, like thinking about percentages, just all those sort of mathematical things. And then also just the base of science I got doing ESS, which was my science subject, environmental systems and societies. And it's really like so much of what I'm doing now. So yeah, it's funny, even though the English and history were my favorite subjects by far, and I was a lot better at them. It's just so good to stay broad, especially in this day and age. I feel like there's much more like changing in careers. Like you have to be much more of an interdisciplinary sort of person, or just like it's much more helpful to your career to have an understanding of different areas. And I think also what I'm realizing with like the issue with climate change is, I think because knowledge has been split into such separate domains, that's part of where the problem comes from, because we have economists that are just professionals in that area, but they don't have an understanding of ecology or environment. So that's why they can make decisions that end up being so detrimental to the environment. And if they had done a more broad course, which gave them a bit of an understanding of things like that, then maybe they wouldn't be making such sort of unconsidered decisions in certain ways.
Ondine, when you were 16, I'm guessing you're making your subject choices. How did what did you choose, and how did you go about making those choices? Do you remember?
Well, yeah, so I'd done French the whole way through school, and then I did a French exchange in year 10, which was an amazing experience. If any of you can send your children on exchange, I couldn't recommend it more. It's just so good for all kind of developments. And so I chose French. I chose history because I was very interested in history and still am. English, literature. I've always loved English, and sort of history and English, the humanities are more where my strengths are. And then I chose math studies, which is the easier maths, which I also don't regret, because you do have to play to your strengths a bit, and I really just maths doesn't come naturally. So chose math studies, and then ESS was my science. And was there and art, of course, and I did visual art, which I love, and that comes really easily as well. So, and also it's beautiful to have a less academic subject, because I remember sometimes just my brain would be so overloaded, and then I'd get to go to art and just do something physical and give my brain a rest. So yeah, I think it's a really, really good program. And also it sets you up better for uni, because if you've just done really specialized in something your strengths are in, and then you decide, oh, actually I really am interested in this, and you've just never done it before, it makes it a lot harder. So yes. Yeah. And I think it's always good to challenge yourself in areas that aren't your natural strengths as well.
Thank you. Can I ask Ezra, how did you go about making your subject choices?
Yeah, so I probably had quite a different method of choosing subjects for the IB compared to uni. So I might go into both of them. So with the IB, it's quite broad. All the subjects sort of sit within a category. And I was thinking, oh, this is year 12, year 11, 12. You get your ATAR after this. This is going to define what I can do in the future. So I sort of tried to pick things I thought I'd be good at, which maybe is not the best strategy to take, actually. But I did high level maths, which is quite challenging. Physics, French, high level visual arts, high level English literature, and history. Yeah, and I chose them because in each category, I think visual arts, I chose it because I thought I'd enjoy it, but others I sort of tried to work it so that what I thought I was good at, I would be doing. But then I went to uni and decided I'd just do what I enjoy. So throughout the IB, I'd sort of missed all the school camps. So I decided to take all the subjects that involved field trips and going out into the bush and doing field work. And that kind of led me to doing sort of ecology-based things, which looking back, the IB probably should have chosen ESS and biology, but did neither of those things. Yeah, it's led to me now starting off a project where I'll get to go out into the field for months at a time and do something I really love. So yeah, I think when choosing subjects, you should do things you like.
So there was no picture of a particular career or a particular course when you chose your subjects?
No, although I did know I wanted maths for getting into a science degree. So that meant standard level or high level maths. Yeah, so that is a consideration.
Yeah.
You need to think about if you want to go to uni after school, which subjects you actually need to take. But uni is not the be all and end all either after school. So yeah, I just recommend doing things you like.
Yes, thank you. Great. Now I'd like to ask Summer a different question. Summer, I'm wondering, looking back now that you've had a few years out, and I'm remembering that for as long as I had known you at school, you were a very ambitious person and driven and had lots of energy and strong intellect and wanted to get stuff done. And I remember you having some questions occasionally about why the school was the way it was and why wasn't it a bit different. Again, perfectly healthy questions. And I'm wondering, Summer, what you might feel you gained from your education in a Steiner community or in a Steiner school that you perhaps can look back on now as having been of value, that perhaps might be something that you might not have gotten elsewhere. Is there something that you see in that way?
Yeah, there are definitely a number of things I see in that way. I think definitely the way that the school encouraged our creativity. I think that naturally I am quite a creative person. I always loved creative writing. Like I said earlier, I loved doing all of the plays, but I also have always really loved kind of more straight academic work. And I think that if I had gone to a different school, I don't know if I really would have pursued, had the opportunity to pursue, or felt like it was worth the time to really pursue my creative interests. And I can definitely see myself having been kind of like funneled into a much narrower range of interests that I think actually would have obviously just been sad for me, like as a person, to not be able to explore my creative interests, but I think also would have been sort of detrimental to my academic growth in the longer term as well. And also just like in like my jobs and like in the working world, I feel like those, like that creativity and sort of the license that we had at Sophia Mundi to put our own stamp on things and kind of, you know, be able to pursue things from our own initiatives and be able to say like, oh, I kind of want to take this project more this way, or how about like we do this? I think that that has been like really, really useful in all like the academic work I've done and like every job I've had as well. I think it makes you just like a lot more like useful of an employee. It's like just very practical, which is funny because I feel like a lot of people think about it as something like extra and fun and like we'll do that if we have time, but I actually think that like it's so central to being like good at everything else, just being able to like think outside of the box and like be a little bit more open-minded and innovative and not scared of like doing something a bit different. And since I am someone who has the tendency to be a little bit more kind of like type A and cautious and conservative, I don't know if I would have been able to develop that really important skill if I had gone to like a more traditional school.
That's very interesting. Ondine, you know, being a very different personality, maybe, do you feel similarly to Summer about this?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think looking back, like what was so amazing about Steiner education compared to a more traditional education, and of course I can't say that from experience because I haven't been to another school apart from at that prep level, so I haven't, but I feel like Steiner really encourages you how to think for yourself, and like they don't teach you information, they teach you how to think about things, and like I feel like it really develops your critical thinking, and I feel like the teachers really respect your point of view and really get you to develop your point of view, whereas speaking to friends from other schools, they just be told what was what, and then I feel like that makes it harder later in life when you need to be able to think more creatively or just like outside the box about things, because you know any way of teaching is just a certain way of teaching. It's like, you know, might not be the truth per se, you know what I mean? So yeah, I just found that amazing. And then also like some of the things that I hated the most at the time, like thinking back, they were actually really, really great. They had really great aspects, like for instance the small class sizes. Like I think everyone has that experience where at a certain point they're like, oh, I really want more of a social life, mum and dad, can I please go to a huge school with like hundreds of people in my year level? And then looking back, just the small class size was so amazing. Like you get such one-on-one help from the teachers, and you have the most amazing discussions in the class because you all know each other really well, and you feel comfortable to talk and express your opinions. And I just don't imagine you would really get that at a huge school or even a bigger school. And then also I think it was a little bit more effort you had to make more friends outside of school, because like, you know, we only had 10 people in our class, so that's not really enough. But then I think, I mean, in a way that like made me develop my social skills, and yeah, I just think like if your kids are like pursuing the Steiner education into the high school, like let them be social. That, you know, my parents were quite good at letting me go out and make new friends and all that kind of stuff. They weren't like strict, like, you know, just study, because I think that really is important, because you don't have such a big social group. But we just linked into social groups from other schools, and we'd see people outside of school, and in the end it definitely wasn't as big an issue as you feel in going into year 10 or something like that.
Yeah. So Ondine, thinking about your 2 senior years at school, and it was a smallish group, but not extremely small, what would you say was a highly positive aspect of the senior years for you?
Well, so for the IB years?
Yeah, and then I'm going to ask you what you found particularly challenging.
I think the actual course content in the IB is so interesting. Like, I still think back to my history classes, and I talk to my partner about, like, whenever, I don't know, something comes up and like my knowledge of history helps like bring context to a current situation. Like, I'm telling him about it and he's like, oh my God, I wish I learned this at school. Like, you know, and Ashley just ran the history classes in like the most engaging way. So that was amazing. And your English class as well, like, you just got us to go completely inside the poems and the books. And I still think back to discussions we had about different moral issues in different writers, like what would it be, like just the most interesting sort of even philosophical conversations. And yeah, just having the small group, I think, really facilitates that. And I guess also this in a purely like environmental way, like the convent grounds are just the most beautiful campus in Melbourne, I reckon. So, and having the Colin Children's Fund there and the river and just everything, so that like made the last 2 years, like, and all the years we were there, like, that made it so much easier to be studying all the time. And yeah, I think.
What about challenges? What was the most challenging aspect of the IB for you?
I think the most challenging aspect was that I think it'd be different now because Sophia Mundi's had the IB for a while now, but because we were the first class, it was a huge jump up. Or like, it was just a much bigger academic load, and going from year 10, where we probably hadn't done as much work as we should have, and there was quite a few changes of teachers leaving and stuff, but then going to the IB was a bit of a shock, but we adjusted pretty well. And but yeah, I just remember it being a big step up academically. But then the good repercussions of that were that when I went to uni, it actually felt like it felt easier because the IB program is so challenging, and it just really, really well prepared me for uni. Like, Ashley taught us how to cite references properly, and you had to write a sort of a mini thesis for your EE, your extended essay, and these were all things that prepared me so much for uni. So it felt like a very easy transition, and other people in my classes had never cited a paper before, so yeah, it was definitely an advantage.
Interesting, thank you. Nadia, what was something about your senior years that you felt was really a positive experience?
Yeah, I would say the class size as well. Like, just being in such a supportive environment, and your class is like your family, and like your teachers are kind of like your family in a way too. And yeah, you can, I don't know, like say like what you think and not have like that fear of being judged because everyone does know each other so well. Yeah, and also the convent grounds. The convent grounds are really beautiful, and also because I like ended up getting a job at CAMS in the convent, so being able to like work, like go to school and then go to work straight after school, and like have like meet all these people there, and it was like still in the same community, and you just like really feel like that community aspect.
Yeah, very nice. So what did you find most challenging?
Honestly, I just like going to school. I just don't think like there's definitely like aspects of school that like I liked, but I just found like, especially in year 11, I just found studying very challenging, and I didn't know like if I wanted to like study or not, and I just didn't enjoy it. But then like, yeah, at the end, I don't know, it all kind of just like came together. I think it was just like the hardest part. It's a personal thing though. I feel like if like, doesn't matter what school I would have gone to, I definitely would have felt that way. And I just think I was like very motivated. But like at the end of like year 12, I was definitely more motivated and started like seeing, I don't know,
Yeah.
how good it is. And then like especially at graduation, when you like walk through all your classes and you've like seen like where you've come from and everything you've learned, and it's like, I don't know, like after I graduated, I realized like how much Sophia Mundi like meant to me and how much it still means to me. Like just feel so connected. Yeah.
Did that feel surprising?
A little bit, yeah. I don't know, I kind of just like missed school, and then I remember coming in one day and like picking something up that I left there, and I was like, oh, like it's so nice seeing everyone and just like walking through. And it's been like 2 months. It's like so strange how like, yeah, just feels like a home in a way. Really
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Ezra, what would you say was the most surprising element of your experience of going through the IB? Was there a surprising element for you?
Nothing was particularly surprising. I suppose going through the IB, being the age we were, we sort of grew up a fair bit in year 11 and 12, and we sort of went from being teenagers to adults during that time. And I think the dynamic with the teachers, you guys, really changed. Say maybe in year 9 or 10, you'd struggle to control us if we didn't feel like doing any work. Whereas in the IB, it sort of felt like everyone was all in it together, all supporting each other, teachers and classmates. So that was something quite nice that I sort of didn't really expect going into the IB. So yeah.
Yeah. And what did you find most challenging, Ezra?
It would have to be the workload. It's quite an undertaking doing the 6 subjects and then TOC and CAS and the extended essay. So just getting through all the work was definitely the hardest part.
Yeah.
About the IB, but it does prepare you for uni if that's what you end up doing after school. So also quite valuable to learn how to deal with a larger workload.
Great, thank you. Summer, wondering, is there something that you would identify now as being the most practical or the most useful thing that you got from doing the IB that you find is serving you well at the moment?
Yeah, a lot of things actually. I think one of the biggest things that's been really useful to me, especially right now being in law school, is just like learning how to read insane amounts. Well, yeah, I mean, at the time it felt like insane amounts. Now being in law school, I wish that I had the amount of reading I had in year 11 and 12. But yeah, I feel like so much of school, obviously depending on what you study, but for me, so much of like everything that I've studied has been reading. It's like been the main thing that I've had to do is just like read so much. And the IB, especially HL history, was just like at the time felt like such an insane amount of reading, like such a big jump up. But that like learning to just like chug through and like learning how to read fast or like skim read but get the right parts, like all of that kind of thing. That's been really, really, really useful, like essential. I think also just like learning how to take exams well. Like test taking, I feel like is its own skill, like aside from like learning the content of a class. Like learning how to take tests well is really like a whole separate thing. And again, depending on what you do, but for me I've had to take so many tests and exams and entry this and that. So that's definitely been really useful. Because I feel like the IB were the first the exams are on 2 years of content. I've never had to do anything like that again. looking back, I'm like, I don't know how I remembered 2 years of content for an exam. Like, yeah. But, and just like the pressure, I think as well, like obviously because it's for like your ATAR and everything, you feel like a lot of pressure, which is horrible at the time, but I think is definitely a really like valuable thing to go through, because you'll, again, depending on what you choose to do, but it's very likely that you'll be in those situations again and again and again. So I think that was also, has been like very, very useful. But as everyone else has said, just in general, the IB set me up so well for university. Like the first year of university felt much easier than the IB. And I, in a way, it didn't make university disappointing. I loved my degree. But like the discussions we had, and again, I think this goes back maybe to like how small our class sizes were. And my university class sizes were actually very small, like for university. But like the discussions we had and like how deep we would get into like a doll's house, or like the, I don't know, like the Great Leap Forward in history or whatever it was, I felt like our discussions got so much deeper than I would even find in like most of my university classes, where people were just kind of like less interested in like delving into the subject for the sake of like interest, and just wanted to get their A so they could get their, you know, job here or there or whatever, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it was just a lot more pre-professional. And I actually felt like Sophia Mundi in a lot of ways was just like, I mean, I loved it at the time, but I don't think I fully appreciated how, especially the IB in those last 2 years, how like rare that level of like intellectual discussion is, like at that age especially. But like even like going on to university, I feel like it's hard to find like that sort of like deep interest in something just for the sake of it, and people are generally like motivated by a lot of other things. Again, not judging that, that's fine, but it's something that I really missed when I went to university. I don't know if anyone else felt that way, but yeah.
That's very interesting to hear, actually. So Summer, what would you say to the people who, I mean, sometimes you hear, oh, the IB is a lot of work in contrast with the VCE. What would you say to that?
Well, I mean, obviously I didn't do the VCE, so I don't know. I don't know how much work that is. I'm sure it's dependent on a lot of factors, like what subjects you choose and everything. I mean, the IB definitely is a lot of work. I didn't do an art subject. I did 2 sciences, so there wasn't really any like reprieve from that like academic study for me. But it's really rewarding. And I think that even though it's a lot of academic study, since it is so broad, and you are forced to, you know, focus on so many different areas, that kind of, I think, can help make it a little bit less monotonous. It's not like you're just studying sciences every day, all day, or you're just reading, although sometimes it felt like it all day, every day. I think even that kind of helped a little bit, that, you know, you would do like some chemistry, and then you would switch to French, and then you would do like some history. I think that helped a little bit. And I think also just like the feeling that like we're all like, it sounds so corny and I can't believe I'm saying this, but just like the feeling of like we're all in it together. Like on Dean, don't know if you had the same feeling, but like I felt like with our cohort, maybe especially since we were the first ones, there was just such a feeling of like, we're like doing this together, and we're like in the trenches, and like we're gonna like get through it, or like whatever, like
yeah, also just quickly, I feel like we all, like, you know, we were best friends before year 11 and 12, but like it made us all, the whole class, even people you weren't that good friends with before, it made you all just like so close, and like you felt like this unit that were going through this struggle together. And like we'd all like study together outside of school, we'd go into the state library and study together. And like I just remember becoming friends with people I probably would never have been friends with at like a bigger school, you know. And then you also realize that like there's so many interesting things you can learn from all different people that might not be your first choice as a friend, do you know what I mean? But yeah, it feels such a kind of group spirit.
That's very nice. Ezra, I'm wondering, often parents are really wondering how to be supportive for their child while their child's going through something like year 12. And so as you were going through the IB, can you think of what you found to be most supportive, most effective that your parents were doing for you?
Yeah, I think the best thing my parents did was they just let me be, but just checked in on how I was going in general, rather than maybe talking about my studies, because it was probably the last thing I wanted to talk about at home around the dinner table, because it seemed like it was all I was doing. So yeah, I think they handled it quite well by just letting me be and checking in every now and then. I think could be different for other students though. The parents year 12 student dynamic, but yeah, for me, just letting me be was nice.
Yes. And was there anything, I mean, it sounded like they handled it all really well, but was there anything they did that you found really not so helpful?
Oh, well, we were renovating our house at the start of the IB, so we were sort of living like gypsies, so that wasn't that helpful. But apart from that, yeah, probably like whenever they said, oh, like, do you need to do you should do some homework, that kind of thing. They didn't say it very often, but like, what should you be working on was like the last thing I wanted to hear, because I was like, oh, I know exactly what I've got to do, but you don't need to tell me because I already know. Just let me be. So that was probably, I found that a little bit annoying when they did do that, but yeah, they didn't do it very often.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. Nadia, can you relate to any of that?
Well, I think my mum mostly told me what to do and to study lots, because I was unmotivated, as I said, which, she has her reasons for doing that, which I kind of found a bit annoying at the time, because I just wanted to do whatever I wanted to do and not study and procrastinate. But it also like does help. Like I don't know, I feel like maybe if she told me less, it would have been better, because I would have just like internally wanted to do it more, instead of like rebelling against her as well as like not wanting to do school. It's a completely personal thing though. But what was really helpful was her explaining to me, like, I don't know, to like redo a subject, and like just like telling me like how useful it will be and how much like I've already done. And that like, yeah, that really helped me heaps as well. Just like, I don't know, yeah.
Right.
Useful.
Yeah.
And that it's like, it's not like redoing all of school, and like stuff does happen. And like obviously, like when I was like going through the IB, I don't think like my goal wasn't like, oh, like get the best score, because I was like, oh, like I want to do fashion design and I don't really like need an ATAR for that. But I just like kind of was like, just do like, because I wanted like a social life and to be able to study, like to be like mentally kind of balanced and happy for myself, like my personal reasons. And then yeah, so that was like my goal, was just like, okay, like I want to still be able to go out and study and do this and like do the best I can in that sense, instead of like being like, oh, I want a 98er. Yeah, but then when it came down to it, like when I got my results back, like I like almost passed. Like I was like this close to passing, just because of my high level subjects, and then her being like, oh, like just like redo it, like what's it gonna hurt? Like you've almost passed anyway. Just need to like redo one subject. And like it helped me like because I didn't get into my course the first time because I didn't have my diploma, which I didn't know was like a thing, so it wasn't very clear on the website. And I was like, oh, we'll actually need it. And also just like really, I don't know, I learned a lot more about, because I redid art, and I just like, yeah, learned a lot from that, and like got a tutor and kind of had like more in-depth art stuff, and like just focus on that. Because like because like art is like so incorporated into Steiner education, I never really like saw myself as being very creative or wanting to pursue something artistic or design based. Then like having to redo that and have that like one-on-one time, like really, I don't know, just like showed me some stuff.
Good, thank you. Sorry, yeah. So Nadia, looking back now, if you could talk to yourself at the start of year 10,
Yeah.
would there be any particular gem of advice that you give yourself?
Just to, like, I don't know, just keep going. Like, I don't know, just like do your best and what you feel like is your best for yourself. And also that, like, yeah, after school, like, it's not about the end number. It's about, like, you proving to yourself that you can do something and you educating yourself. And after school, it doesn't, yeah, like, I don't know, your ATAR only gets you, like, so far, I guess. And there's also, like, other options after school, which you can do, like, bridging courses if you don't get that score. Like, I feel like just, like, being present and enjoying it and, like, yeah, still, like, obviously applying yourself and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's not, like, the end of the world if stuff like that doesn't happen to you.
Yes.
And you can always, like, find another way to achieve, like, what you're, like, to achieve your dreams or, like, study what you want to do. And you don't even have to go to uni. Like, you can, like, there's, like, apprenticeships and, like, internships you can do. There's just, like, so many different, yeah, career paths out there than just going to uni and studying stuff. But also, like, that also has its value. Yeah, it's like a personal, like, whatever works for you, really. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Ondine, what would you say to yourself looking back? If you could talk to your fresh-faced year 10 self.
So many things. So, like, when you actually sent this question in an email, like the questions for us to prepare, I started writing down some things and I ended up with like 20 things that I'd really love to, like, send to the kids, like, at the school at the moment, just because I actually think that there's so many things I'd want to know. Like back then, what a big thing was, like, I was actually so shy, like, not with people I knew, but like in any kind of in any opportunity where I had to public speak or even talk in front of the class, like in group discussions, it was fine, but any sort of presentation or any of that, I was just so shy. And I think I'd love to tell myself that that doesn't last, and really just to just be comfortable with not doing something perfectly the first go, or not even feeling comfortable doing something, because that's the way you learn and that's the way you grow. So, you know, you're never going to become a good public speaker or just be confident with your ideas if you don't first have them come out and not sound how you want them to. And I think I'd probably just tell myself to not be so just to be a bit more, like, adventurous and brave with, like, with not doing things, not being good at things straight away, and not just always doing what you feel comfortable with. Like, so definitely getting out of your comfort zone. I think I'd also say, like, at the moment in uni, like, what I have learnt, like, more recently is to really utilize, like, the ebb and flow of your creative energy, because, like, I feel like any kind of work you're doing, any kind of writing work, like, it is still creative, like, and there's just times where you'll be more focused and more, like, on, and you should use those times to do the tasks that require that. And then other times when you're more tired but you still have to study, just do, like, your reading stuff, do the easier things. So I think, like, maybe being, like, working smarter would be something I'd, like, tell myself then, because there's also, like, even things that you can just do, like life admin when you're so tired and you don't have any creative energy, or, like, do stuff you need to do around the house, and so that sort of thing. And I'd also say that, like, everyone does say this, but, like, your ATAR actually isn't that important. Like, once you realize that, like, you know, sometimes no one asks you what your ATAR is these days, you know, like, and if you get what you need to get into the course you want, then that's, like, the main thing. And I think you should be more thinking about your just overall development as a person rather than a mark, and I think that's just a way more healthy way to look at everything, and, like, it'll take some pressure off you. So you should just be thinking, like, I'm learning so many amazing things and I'm really developing as a person, rather than this number is going to define me, because you forget about it in, like, a year. It's interesting. And what else? I'll just quickly look at what I had written. I think just consistent work. Can you still see me when I'm looking at this?
Yes.
Okay. Just that consistent work will get you further than talent with no work ethic. Because I think I did definitely see that with people at school. You know, we just had some really talented people in our class, but they just had no work ethic, or not no work ethic, but you know, it's so much more important to work hard and commit to things, and then you might even become good at something you thought you had no talent in, you know. And I think Steiner education is so important because it's holistic, and I feel like there's much more space for you to find your own unique perspective of the world. Like, you're not taught just what to think. I think what I was sort of saying before, I think that's just so important, and also makes me feel a lot more comfortable with like bringing my own point of view to, like, say, a discussion at uni or something like that. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And one just really practical thing, I'd tell myself to write a document of all my due dates for everything and then stick it like just above my desk so it's there. So because you can just so easily forget like when things are due, and like just be really organized, because I think that's where a lot of stress comes from, if you're like feeling not organized or feeling like you're getting behind. Like if you actually just put quite a bit of effort into your admin, then you'll feel a lot more secure and like you know what's going on.
Very nice. Summer, do you think you would give similar advice to your year 10 self?
I wrote down a couple of things, not 20 by any means, but all this kind of like, I guess, small like practical things. So one thing, like the specific thing that happened to me, but I guess there's like a wider lesson to learn from it, is that I think like treat year 10 kind of not as part of the IB, but like a little bit, like take year 10 seriously, because it will make year 11 and 12 a lot easier. I also went an exchange in year 10 to France with Nadine. We both went at the same time. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. I second what she said, absolutely. If your kids have the opportunity to go, it was definitely a very like defining time for me growing up. But I wish that I had done those extra maths questions that Karen was sending me while I was in France, because I didn't have math as like one of my subjects in France, because I was doing the bac, and that's like the opposite of the IB, where it's like you choose specific streams. So I just did like literature like 1 million hours a week, and that was all, which was great for learning French. But I didn't do any math for 6 months, and then I came back and did IB maths, and it was like, oh my gosh, like this is horrible. So yeah, just like, I guess if you're planning on continuing something in year 11, work consistently harder in year 10, because that will make it a lot easier once you come to the IB. I think one of the other things is definitely what Ondine said as well. Just like learning to be okay with not being good at something the first time. I think like all of us had a harsh, not a reality check. It felt like a reality check at the time, but like it wasn't. It was like a big transition going to year 11 from what we had been doing in year 10. And like none of us were like used to like the grades we started getting, and I think we all kind of like freaked out a little bit, but it was fine. Like we still did really well in the end. We just like needed a bit of time. And I think, yeah, definitely just like be ready for that. Don't be scared of it. Like don't let it freak you out or make you feel like you're like not smart or you can't do it. And that'll probably happen to you with a lot of other transitions in life and work as well. So it's just like a good lesson to learn. Another really big thing I would say is just learn to be really, really good at taking notes. Like be very meticulous about how you take notes, like watch YouTube tutorials about how to take notes. I'm still trying to learn how to get better at taking notes. It just will make your study so much easier at the end of year 12 if you take great notes in the first half of year 11. So just like really, really, really focus on taking good notes. What else did I have? Oh, pick an EE topic that like you're super excited about. Because yeah, you're gonna have to spend a lot of time working on it, and it's probably the thing that you have the most like control over in year 11 and 12. So if you have a topic that you are really excited about and like you're gonna wake up and be like, I want to do my EE topic, then you're not going to leave it till the last minute. And whenever you are trying to like avoid another subject, you can work on your EE instead of like watching Netflix. I think those are the main things I had. Oh yeah, and the other thing I guess kind of takes into account a lot of the more specific things I said, but just like long-term planning, like don't. And again, this is something that I'm like still learning, but I think is especially important in the IB because your exams are going to be on 2 years worth of content. So just like plan your study with like a view to the long term. Don't cram. I know everyone will still cram, but like, yeah, it's just like being consistent and doing like a smaller amount of study every day is going to pay off a lot more than doing like an insane amount of study in the last month or even the last half of year 12. Just like being consistent from the beginning of year 11 or really even year 10 to the end of year 12 will make everything a lot easier, and you'll still be stressed, but like you'll be a manageable level of stress instead of having breakdowns.
Lovely. Thank you.
Breakdowns are okay too though. You'll get through those. That's fine.
Now, my last big question. Ezra, could you please tell me, on your last day of school, when you walked through each of the classrooms to say goodbye, what was that like for you?
Yeah, that was a pretty special day actually. You see all the year levels above you, right from class 1, I think, going through that big spiral that all the other classes make, and yeah, and then on that final day you get to go back through all the classrooms, and yeah, it's very nostalgic. It brings back a lot of memories, and I remember we spent a fair bit of time with the year 11s that day, because there's a little bit of camaraderie that forms from all doing the IB together, and then you go through the spiral and it sort of just hits you that you've kind of finished school and what an amazing experience it was. And we still had exams to come for the IB, so it wasn't like we'd done that, but yeah, it was a very, very powerful day. I remember it quite clearly.
Lovely, thank you. Nadia, how was that day for you as you visited all the classrooms and went back down through the year levels to finally, I think we actually even visit the prep room on that final day.
Yeah, I think we did. It was very emotional. I don't know, it was like in a positive way, just like seeing, revisiting all, I don't know, all those classes and like having like little like, I don't know, snippets of like what you learned and like what you went through through all those years. That was really, I don't know, it's quite an amazing experience actually. But it was great, and just really makes you, I think, like appreciate Steiner and your education and like what you've been through and your teachers as well. And like, you really do see like how much of a community it is, especially when you walk through the spiral. It's so nice.
Nice. Ondine, do you have any recollections of what you were thinking on that day?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about it now. It was so much more impactful than I could have imagined, and it was just so special and beautiful. Like, so you start in prep, and I remember just looking at the little kids and just thinking about yourself being that age, and even just being there with Summer, like just thinking we were both here 12 years ago, and I think I even cried in prep because they sang us a little song, and Mary was still there, which was the really amazing part. Like our prep teacher was still the prep teacher, so it just felt like this full circle thing. And Mary hugs you, and she still smells the same, and she's wearing her same robes, and it is just, you just feel like she's so proud of you, and like it's a different kind of success. It's like, you know, you've gone all the way, and yeah, and she's just so proud to see you graduating as a year 12, and then going through all the other classes, you get reminded of all the work you did at each stage, and you also remember being that age when the year 12s would come through, which was a really exciting time. So they're all really excited, and they've like prepared one thing to do for you, like a song, or each class gives you little gifts, so you're collecting them along the way, and yeah, the younger years were just like so emotional, just so beautiful. And then coming to the older years, I remember like the middle school had like prepared a song for us, and they sang Whitney Houston, "I Will Always Love You." And it was so beautiful, and like my 3 siblings were in that, you know, performance, and they put so much effort into it, and that was also just like unbelievably beautiful. And then the spiral where you walk in, and it's like, I think I really realized the power of like symbolic gestures and of rituals, which I feel like our culture is a bit devoid of, but Steiner still really has, like, so just that physical ritual of like walking through the spiral, like through your journey through Steiner, and coming to the middle, and then your teachers giving speeches, and then walking out and having the flowers thrown on you. It's something I was telling my partner about the other day, and like you speak to other people, and it's just the most beautiful special experience of like that, you know, other people you absolutely do not get at a regular school. And even just the symbolic nature of going out the archway of parents and teachers as they sort of usher you out into the real world. It's like, it's the best thing ever.
Oh, beautiful. Wonderful. Look, Summer, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, sure. I think Ondine remembers the specifics of the day a little bit better than I do. It was almost 10 years ago now. But I definitely remember the feeling of just like when we were going through the classes, remembering being that age and remembering the year 12, like watching the year 12s go through, and just feeling like they seemed so much more adult than I feel right now. Which is, I think, a feeling that you feel at like every like seminal moment in your life. But yeah, that's one of the main feelings I remember. I also remember Mary in prep, because that was just incredible that she was still there. And I think for me, the part where I got most emotional, which I was not expecting to get emotional at all, but around the spiral, like walking out of the spiral as well. I don't know if it was the ritual thing or if it was just that, like, I don't know, everyone was there and everyone was so excited, and that we had seen classes do it for every single year. And you also just realize like how long the school journey is, and like what a significant part of your life it is. Like there are not many other things. I mean, maybe, you know, you'll stay in a job for 18 years or, you know, 14 years, but there aren't that many experiences in your life that are as significant as like your schooling, and like as long, and that you spend as much time doing, and like the people that you spend every day around. And I think that was a big part of why it was so emotional for me, was just like, and even actually thinking about it now is making me really emotional, but just like that feeling of like, I've spent my day around these people every day that I can remember my whole life, and now I'm just walking out into an entirely different world. And for me too, I knew I was moving to the other side of the world, so I think it was extra scary. But, and I mean, it wasn't a bad emotion. Like, I was excited, like I was ready to go out into the world, I guess. I thought I was. And I was. Sophia Mundi prepared us well. But it was just like, that was just so weird, because I didn't know anything else. Like, when you leave school, you don't know anything else except for school. And that was just like, it kind of hit you in that moment. Or for me, it hit me like walking out of the spiral. Like, this is the end. And like, I don't know what life is like adult life, or like life without that like tight knit community. Now it's just kind of like, this is the world, like go wherever you want, like do wherever you want, and like try and find like a niche or a place or somewhere where you feel like it works and like you belong, which we'd never really had to do before, because we just been like given this community and had it every day for our whole lives. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Summer. Well, if that is all the questions I have here, do we have any other questions? People behind the scenes?
I don't have anything in the chat. But I actually had a question, because I noticed that Ezra Janetsky has got a piece on his wall that I seem to recall from his visual art days. And I was wondering if he could explain it to us, because I was so pleased to see it.
Yes, that's correct. I've still got my my schooling art around. So yeah, sorry, it's probably not great.
No, it's perfect.
Camera work, but that was a year 12 art piece. I've tried to explain it to about 100 people. No one understands how it works, so I probably won't give it a go right now. But that's AFL teams, and it's this weird game I made up in my mind. That is also a year 10 art piece in the back there with the gum trees. So yeah, still value all my Steiner art learnings, especially since I haven't really been able to practice it as much since leaving school.
Thanks. I just noticed it and I thought, I know that piece. And I love it. But yeah, we've got no other questions in the chat. So
We've covered it all.
And we have done. Yeah.
Would anyone have any?
I guess I'd say it's such a it really is a different situation because of COVID. Like it's so much harder for you guys. So just like don't ever feel down on yourself if you just like aren't finding like as much of a social group as you want, because it's just so difficult. Like everyone is just so isolated right now. But I think good ways that I like transitioned and like made new kind of social groups is like work's definitely one of them. So I'd recommend like getting a job, like getting a hospitality job, because they're often like, I've made so many good friends from like different places I've worked, because they're quite social. You'll be working with other people your age, and there's like, you know, if it's like a bar or restaurant, they're like social places. So, and then that's also a good way to like be saving money, of course. So like, yeah, I'd recommend like leaving school, working, and then definitely traveling. But of course you can't do that right now because like travel is also a really great way to meet people. And then another thing, like obviously when this is allowed again and when this is happening, just like music festivals are actually a really great place to meet people, because like I remember leaving school, I still didn't have like that bigger group of friends, and like I remember going to the first 2 music festivals I went to just with like 1 or 2 other friends, and you just meet so many amazing people there, and then lots of them live in Melbourne, and then you get brought into friendship groups that might have formed at other bigger schools, and then suddenly you're a part of this new friendship group, and that can be really, really helpful. So and they're just actually, they're places where you learn quite a lot of things as well. It's not just the like party environment people think they are. There's like lots of amazing workshops or like all different things like that, and just great community there as well. So yeah, I guess just like find a social job and like yeah, like exactly what Ezra said, like, you know, don't be too picky, like you'll find new connections and like you'll enjoy things more than you might have thought you would, like if you start, you know, do a sport or like anything like that. And yeah, I guess just like uni will also be a good structure. But I think just don't rush into it. Like I would take a gap year. But then at the same time, I mean, everything's so different now. So I think like you'd know best. And yeah, I hope that helps.
Any other alumni want to respond or?
Yeah, sure. So I guess my situation was a little bit different. It was kind of easier to make friends because I was in college. So in the US in college, like everyone lives on campus. So we all live together, and like most people, well, really almost no one was from the city where my university was. So like no one really knew anyone else. So we were all forced to make friends. And everyone was kind of equally desperate to make friends. So that was kind of nice. But I think the part of it that I did find not something that really lingered, but at the beginning that I found a little hard and that I was a little bit scared of is just, I think it can be hard when you come from such a small school, and I'm not sure how long you've been at Sophia Mundi, but when, like, for those of us who've been there our whole lives, or even if you've been there, you know, like the whole of high school or whatever, it can feel like a little bit intimidating when you leave and you're like in an environment with people from like all different backgrounds and all different like life experiences, people who have been to like really big schools, and like sometimes you just feel like, oh, like maybe, you know what I mean, you just feel intimidated and you might feel like you don't know how to like socialize or interact with all of these people because you've been in like this like tiny little, maybe you felt like it was a little bit like sheltered or whatever, which I don't think is necessarily the case at all. And I would just say, like, don't sell yourself short. Like, you are just as like socially capable and just as like smart as all these other people, like no matter what like fancy schools that they went to or like whatever.
I agree with Ondine about getting a job. I feel like getting it, especially in hospitality, it really helps. Like I definitely, when I like finished school, didn't really know like heaps of people outside of school. And then my job just like, I don't know, became friends with people who I work with, also like older than me. And you just see it has like such a different variety of people that you become friends with. And you get to see like so many like, I don't know, different, it's also like very educational in a way, because you get to see like, I don't know, how like different people live their lives, as well as like making friends. And then like when you graduate, you have like a support group kind of behind you because you work with them. I guess it depends where you work, but that's just like specific to me. But it is like, I don't know, I feel like when you finish school, it kind of feels like if you don't have like a huge group of friends that you like don't know how to get all those friends, but just like, I don't know, it ends up kind of happening in a way if you put yourself out there. And yeah, you just like, you're as capable as anyone else to be able to make friends. And just because you're from a small school and don't know people doesn't like make you any less adequate with that.